All right, we are recording. All right, you guys, we're super excited. We have an amazing real estate agent here today, the one and only Jason Gorman. So thank you, Jason, for giving us an hour of your time and sharing a little bit about your story and your advice and how you built your team. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about your profit share and just how you built your profit share. I don't know if people truly understand, how amazing this opportunity is. So, and then we'll open up the last 15 minutes or so for questions. So as you guys are listening to Jason, write down any questions you have or anything you want to ask him, because we'll have time at the end for that as well. So
very good.
Awesome. And Jason, I was actually just looking at the production numbers from the region. It looks like so far year to date, your team has done about $50 million in closed volume and $1.4 million in GCI.
Yep.
That is amazing. Is this going to be your best year ever?
Yeah, it should be. We're ahead of last year. I think last year was like 55 million.
Okay.
I think we have, if I'm not mistaken, I think we have almost 8 or 9 million for October. So I think there's quite a few that aren't showing up for this month. So I think we should be pretty close to upper 50s by the end of this month, and hopefully we'll sell a few houses in November and December as well.
Okay, so you could even hit up to 60 million by the end of the year, potentially.
60, yeah, 60. We're figuring 64, 65. I mean,
okay.
I guess it depends on if we sell anything after the election.
We'll see. We're all wondering that, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's actually go back to the beginning. Okay. So will you just share with us, how did you get started in real estate? How old were you? We'll just start there and just share your story.
Okay. So I was dating a girl that it's funny because my daughter's a sophomore, a second year student at the University of St. Thomas. And my girlfriend at the time was going to school there. And I went to Inver Hills Community College down in Inver Grove Heights for like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And I really didn't like it. I was done with school. I just didn't have the attention span to sit in class any longer. And her and I were watching a movie called Pretty Woman. And watching that movie, I decided, like, during that movie, I'm like, I'm going to buy and sell big companies internationally. Oh. And of course, then the next day I told my dad that story, and he said, well, you live in the basement. I was 18 at the time. I just graduated the year before. And so he's like, you should sell a house or something first. So later that week, he had written down a phone number. They have those signs, career opportunities out in front of then Burnett Realty over in Maplewood. And he just gave me a phone number for a guy named Tim Gallivan, which a lot of you guys know. He teaches at the Minnesota Realty School, owns, is part owner of the Minnesota Realty School. And he was the manager of Burnett Realty then back in Maplewood. So I called him, told him my same story, that I'm going to buy and sell big companies internationally. I'm going to sell maybe some houses first. And he referred me to Bob Ream out in Woodbury, the Burnett office there, which, if you think about the irony there, like, anyone who could fog a mirror and kind of stumble their way through the front door of an office is going to get hired at just about any brokerage in the world. Yeah. And that isn't to demean any of you or me or any of it. It's just basically, if you can stand upright and walk through the door, people will hire you.
Yep.
They didn't want me, right? So they referred me to another broker, obviously, right? So another office. So that's how I ended up in this business. That's how I ended up in the Woodbury office of Burnett Realty. I spent my first almost 10 years there. And then we had the opportunity to get involved with Keller Williams back in 2002 when they came to Minnesota and Wisconsin. And I guess that's it. So I spent the first 9 years, 8.5 to 9 years on my own. I had an assistant. That's how I met my wife. So I hired her, put an ad in the paper, and found an assistant, and we got married and have 4 kids. And we have our second dog coming here in about an hour.
Wow.
So yeah, so we're busy. We have a 19-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 12-year-old. So
yep. So you started in real estate when you were 18 years old.
Yep. So started when I was 18.
Wow.
I did not sell a house for my first 6 months.
Okay.
So I I got the license and the training and, went through, they had a thing called Success Core. If anyone's been around in the business for 27 years, they had a thing called Success Core, which I guess is like, it's the, 1990s version of Ignite. You're supposed to contact people and make as many contacts as you can and then track them. And then, you'll get results.
Yeah.
So I did not sell a single house in my first 6 months. I ended up losing my driver's license. So I out at the girlfriend's place out at the University of St. Thomas. Well, apparently University of St. Thomas is affiliated with the Minneapolis Police Department. And even though it's a college, and if you get a parking ticket at that college in particular, and you don't pay the ticket, which I thought was just a ticket from the campus police, they turn it over to Minneapolis. It becomes a warrant. So it kind of becomes serious, even though it starts as a parking ticket. So I lost my driver's license for 30 days. And during that 30 days of rollerblading back and forth to my waitering job at the Ground Round, I was listening to a cassette tape from Mike Ferry that I had got from a guy in the office. He had gone to a little seminar from Mike Ferry. And so I was listening to that, and it was about making 10 contacts every single day. You had to make 10 contacts every single day. So I just, during that 30 days of rollerblading back and forth to my, waitering job, I decided when I get back, I'm really going to hit it hard. Like I'm going to just make as many contacts as I can. I really wanted to, I look back now, and so much of it was because I was being told by, people that were really important in my life that I really needed to go get a real job. And so for those of you that are being encouraged by people in your life that you need to go get a real job, all I needed was someone to tell me I couldn't do this. That was like that. If I look back, my second 6 months, I was rookie of the year for all of Burnett Realty. I sold 64 houses in the remaining 6 months, right? So over 10 a month. And I've never dropped below 10 a month in the last 27 years. So, like we look at our, you look at our production or numbers or whatever, and I know that we do pretty good, but it's annoying to me because we were doing this, we were doing not much less than this when it was just me. So to have a team of 10 people and still be doing a couple hundred units a year just drives me bananas. So I couldn't be more disappointed with where we're at.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I love your transparency. Yeah.
Where we should be, right? Yeah. We should be selling 100 houses a month. Yep. It's just that I'm in the way, right? But we'll get to that in a later couple of questions. But
interesting. Yeah.
But we're doing fine, right? Like we're doing okay. But it's like you get to these plateaus and you get stuck. And I've been stuck at a plateau for a long, long time. Okay. So
we'll come back to that when we
come back to that. But so the second 6 months, it was 100% mindset. When you look at the difference between my first 6 months and my second 6 months, I was still living in my parents' basement. I was still, barely out of high school. I still, by any stretch of the imagination, should not have made it in this business or industry or, been successful in any way, shape, or form. I was just willing to do the work. I was willing to make the contacts. Yeah. And I hired, so about 3 or 4 months in, I hired Mike Ferry as my coach. And then my second year, we did 106 closings or 116 closings. My third year, we did like 125. And then we just always kept that same momentum going. It really was, it was cool. And then that second year is when I hired my now wife, and she was my first assistant. So it was sort of like a team, but it was more like a partnership, really. It was just the two of us. I didn't have any other people. We did hire another part-time person a year later. And then about 8 years into it, I was just burnt out. I was selling all those houses by myself. She was doing all the paperwork and the office stuff. And so we had our jobs really, we had it into a routine where we really worked well together. Yeah. But we realized like we wanted to start a family. We wanted to have a life outside of real estate. And it was like, you could never go on vacation. I mean, it was crazy, because she would have to deal with the paperwork and I was dealing with the sales. And so we didn't even have a buyer agent. So I hired my first buyer agent in 2000. in 2000. So 2002, we came to Keller. In 2000 at Burnett, I hired a buyer's agent, which, back in 2000, it was like really cutting edge. No one had teams. The red book wasn't written yet. There was no manual on it. Everyone was, and at Burnett at the time, they really, really did not want you to have a team because it made getting paid really complicated, because they did not really want you to have a team. And so it was really weird. So those first year and a half. And so that kind of, I kind of fell backwards into Keller, but the more I looked into it and the more I realized it was like, this was what I was looking for, was like, how do you do this? How do you build a team? And so they were writing a book at the time that was going to be released a year after we came. And so they were giving us like the cliff notes of what the book they were writing. And I'm thinking, holy buckets, this is exactly what I'm trying to find out. I'm going to all these seminars across the country trying to figure out how to build a team, and no one was saying anything.
Yeah. Interesting. So you did 64 units in 6 months and you were like 18 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. So real quick question for you. We have a lot of new agents that are watching in our training room right now and are going to be watching later. What's your advice for them?
Make contact. So,
Okay.
So here's what I do now, what I did then. So what Mike Ferry had you do, and if you've heard Diana Kokoska, Diana does the pencils. So she puts pencils in a jar, and then for all the note cards, she moves the pencils into the other jar. What Mike had us do is put pencils into the jar. You had to make 10 unique contacts every single day. If you ever been through bold, like they say 20, right?
Yeah.
The reason they say 20 is because you won't do it. You won't do any number, right? The reason that you don't have success or sales, if anyone makes 10 unique contacts a day, you're going to be wildly successful. If you make excuses about why you're not making a certain number of contacts per day, just know that is the problem. Like that is and will be your only problem. Until you solve that problem, you have no other problems to solve.
Yep.
So the number of unique contacts that you're willing to make on a daily basis will do two things. Number one, it will make you successful. And number two, it will give you choices. So you won't be this asswipe salesperson trying to convert people and trying to talk them into doing something. What you'll do is you'll make so many contacts that you'll be able to find the low-hanging fruit of people who want to move.
Yep.
Right. So my very first sale, I'd gotten back on my very first sale, I was doing open houses. Now I would do an open house, and so again, if you do a Mike Ferry open house, you have to knock on 100 doors before you get to the open house. So you got to start like Thursday or Friday getting ready for an open.
Yep.
So I had to talk to 100 neighbors before the open. Then when I was done, I had to write handwritten cards to every single person that came through the open house. While writing a handwritten card at my dad's restaurant, I'm sitting at the counter, writing handwritten cards. The guy next to me is like, what are you doing? I'm just writing handwritten cards to people that came through my open. It's a great house, blah, blah, blah. But he bought the house. Okay. That was sale number one. So the UPS guy sitting next to me at the counter bought the first house. And what it was confidence can happen if you're taking action. If you're not taking action, you're going to lose confidence. And if you begin to lose and erode your confidence, all of you start full of piss and vinegar. Anyone have been in the business less than 30 days, 60 days?
A couple of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so if you're 30 or 60 days, like this is a honeymoon, baby. Like you just got your license. You're so excited. This will be fun. And like somewhere around day 60, you're like, oh, it's not that much fun. Like I don't have anyone. Like, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Like I already learned how to fill out a purchase agreement or an offer to purchase. Yeah, but you don't have anyone to talk to. So like if you're not going to talk to people every single day, this is going to be a painful career. You just send your license back to the state now, because the only thing you need to do if you want to be successful is make contacts. If you don't like that, well then perfect. This is going to suck. This career is going to suck, because if you don't make contacts, you won't make money. Because you're going to be slimy and salesy, and you're going to try to convert people, and you're going to try to, again, when they say this, you say that. No, like just talk to 100 people, because if you talk to 100 people, there are a few of those people moving. And there's 20 of them that are probably going to be moving, say, in the next year. And then the other 80, let's just say there's, again, out of 100, those other 80, they are going to move someday. Every one of you on this call has moved recently, or you will move in the future. It's just what it is. I mean, if you're
So
dead, your
true.
family will sell the house, right? Or they will move you out of your rental and then that landlord will sell that house. I mean, every piece of real estate that you either rent or own
Yeah.
will be sold someday. And if we stop caring when they move or when they sell, every single person you talk to becomes an opportunity. Your database becomes extremely important when you start doing this, when you start taking the call. So I don't use pencils anymore. What I prefer is if you just go to your bank, you can get a roll of pennies. Okay. You can get a roll of pennies for 50 cents. Okay. 50 pennies. Get a little coffee mug, put them on your desk, put 50 pennies in the mug. Your job is to get them out by the end of the week. You got to make 50 unique contacts a week. If you won't do that, you're going to be broke. And if you're broke, you're going to be a toxic POS in the office, in the market center, and to everyone you talk to. So you won't make any money. And then all the people around you will be telling you to go get a real job. It's super simple. This business is simple. It's not easy, and it's really simple.
Is there anything like you wish you'd have done differently those first few years, or anything looking back now that you would tell yourself that you'd have done differently, or would you have done everything the way you did it? Or, you said you hired a buyer's agent in 2000. Tell us a little bit about that and how that happened, and who did you find, and how did you just start growing to this top team in the Midwest? Like, tell us about the evolution of that.
I think I've done it while I'm going through it. So today, right? So today, all of you, well, Sue's on the call, so now she's going to be a mole, right? Sue, I can see you. Yeah, she's on my team, so she's gonna report back to all my people on my team what I say. So I have to be careful, Sue. Now that you're on the call, no, not really, but the on the outside. So when you compare your insides to someone else's outside, so for you guys, when you compare, yeah, she shut her video off. When you compare yourself, like say to me, it's like, oh, it looks really impressive. Oh, he's got really big numbers, really big team. It feels like a really big gong show to me. Okay, it feels like we're going through people. We got new agents. Like, why do we have turnover? Why do I have to hire another administrative person? Like, it feels like shit on the inside. So just know that while you're comparing yourself to other people, so if you say, what would I do different? I'd stop comparing myself to others, and I'd start comparing myself to how I was yesterday. Because if you'll compare yourself to yourself yesterday, then you can focus on getting better and just making a little tiny difference each day, right? Just get a little bit better than you were yesterday, and stop looking at other people. You can learn a lot from other people in terms of like all the mistakes. So when I look back, the reason that we got good at building a team was because our team had a ton of problems. Like we went through, I bet you I've had 50 agents on my team over the years. That sucks, losing 40 people, right? I mean, it's really, really hard. And, hiring the wrong people, having the wrong people in the wrong seats, having the, right people in the wrong seats, right? So they're good people, but they're in the wrong seats. So as long as it took me to get good at selling, it's a completely different process than building a team. So owning and running and building a team from a management perspective or from an operations perspective is so different than the sales perspective. So I would have probably also understood the difference, that it wasn't like just build a team and then your 7, 8, 9, 10 years of experience as being a salesperson was going to make you a good leader. That wasn't the case at all. So you just fail, right? Like my first listing appointment took 4 hours. Now they take 30 minutes on Zoom. I have to drive there even. So I think that you get better and you get more efficient because you make mistakes. So so the second thing I would say, the first thing would be compare yourself to yourself and stop comparing yourself to others. Because as someone is looking at, hey, to me, they're like, oh my gosh, look at your big, impressive volume and your great big team. And, like I'm just on a conference call before this dealing with a bunch of bullshit on my team. Like, it's like, it's not all lollipops and rainbows, and it's not all perfect, and everything in your life or my life, we deal with challenges. And the more money you want to make, you got to understand and embrace The reason you'll make more money is because you've solved more problems and solved more challenges. And if you don't embrace that challenges and problems are part of life, then life becomes complicated. Mm-hmm. And so you deal with more problems and more challenges and more issues, and they get bigger, right? It's for those of you that have had, like a 3-year-old, like a problem with a 3-year-old is just not as complicated as that with a 19-year-old. Problems don't go away. They're just a little bit more complicated, a little bit more expensive, right? So those issues and kind of solving them, you become, either you get gray from having teenage daughters or building a team, right? So, I mean, who caused more gray, my team or my daughters? I'm not sure. But.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why do you do it then? Like what do
I love it. I absolutely love it. Like there has not been a day in 27 years where I haven't wanted to go to work. Yeah. There has not been one day. And I love it so much. I love dealing with the challenges as much as so I'm not complaining. So don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining about any of my challenges. I just don't want you to think that when you get to a certain point, you've graduated from problems or graduated from challenges. And that's the feeling I get from people is like, they want to get to a certain destination thinking the destination is free of issues and problems. Mm-hmm. No, they're just more complicated and bigger and different. Mm-hmm. They don't go away.
Yeah. And you enjoy the problems, you enjoy the challenge.
I like the challenge. Yeah. I mean, I love helping people. So I think if you want to build a team, you need to really be focused on helping people grow. So it is challenging. It can feel like herding cats, right? Much like your job, Lisa, like dealing with people, like they're independent contractors. They have their own mind. We put together a business plan every year. So for each of our agents, they put together a plan. We basically lay it out step by step on what they need to do. And then they don't do it. And you think, well, I mean, I want to hit them. It's illegal. I probably would get in trouble. Like, I just want to shake them. I want to shake them into like, why are you not doing, like, we have this broken down step by step by step. Like, what do we need to do to help you get on track? And so I love that aspect. I love helping other people do more for themselves than they maybe would want to on their own. And so that's kind of the coaching perspective, which I absolutely love. I think that all of us can get stuck from a mindset standpoint. And we all have those few different people in our lives that really just help get us out of a rut. Whether it's, listening to your favorite music or a podcast, or if it's talking to your best friend from high school or your mom or your cousin, like someone, for all of us, there's someone in your life that helps you, right? Just helps kind of pull you along. And sometimes, all of us need that. For me, one of my best friends, I mean, like, it does not matter when I call him, he just always makes me laugh. Always. Like, he's just an idiot and he's funny, and I can be having a rough day. And it's like, I know that if I call him and I get a hold of him, he's going to be that person for me. Becky on my team, I was just doing a coaching call with her last week. And so for her, it's listening to music. Like, there's a few songs that she just absolutely loves. So we had her save those right to her screen on her phone, so that it's like at any time, it might just be your favorite song or something that just gets you into a different mood. And I think that success, it's all mindset. And then it's a little bit of practice, or a lot of practice. And then it's doing the actual activities. And so that's where doing the activities becomes kind of your one thing, because what I will tell you is that what I found, and if I look backwards in time, I did the activities, even though I didn't want to do them. I have a really high D, high I. I hate rejection. I do not like to call people. I do not like to hear no. I certainly want people to get along, and I want to be looked up to or whatever. I don't want to have people not want to work with me. And rejection, obviously, is the number one thing that you're going to deal with when contacting more people. And you're going to deal with it more and more and more. And that's part of real estate success or sales success is the number of people that you're going to need to talk to, that when you talk to them, if they think about real estate, they think of you. And that is, like, if we look at our success, it's a numeric equation to contacting more people. And your mindset, so getting better, will come from two things: doing it and doing it more. and doing it and doing it more. And so all of the best people, you look at any athlete, you look at any of the best people in sports, they just did it a little bit more. They just work out a little bit harder. They shoot a few more free throws, right? So, I mean, for those of you that like LeBron James or don't like LeBron James or any, Tiger Woods, they do it more than other people. They just keep doing it. They need to do it less, right? They're already great. And so you would think, well, they need to shoot less free throws. They need to, do less chip shots. Well, no, I mean, they practice 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours a day all the time. And then they keep their edge. I teach a class for 19 years now, 19 years or 18 years we've been with Keller. I've taught a class every Tuesday and every Thursday for 18 years.
Your class?
I wouldn't need to do scripts, right? Like I know my scripts, and the reason you stay sharp and you get better is by teaching.
You get better.
So if any of you, if you want to get better, if you want to have the best listing presentation, if you're fearful of having a buyer presentation, then I would encourage you to reach out to Lisa. So your homework today, there should be 2 people out of all of you guys. There should be 2 that should reach out to Lisa by 4 o'clock today and offer to teach a class on a weekly basis. 2 and only 2. Maybe there's only 1, but at the end of the day, you don't need to be the best. You will be the best if you do it every week. And so teach a class on doing a buyer consultation, seller consultation, overcoming objections, and again, sharpening that saw. And we'll get to that. Like, from a recruiting standpoint, like if you really want to get your profit share good, like help other people and don't care if they come. Like if you just do those 2 things, you're going to end up with profit share.
Yeah. Well,
you get a lot of it. I mean, but help people and don't care if they come.
Yep.
Help people, don't care if they come. It's just.
So Jason, when you're building your team, because you've said you've gone through 50 agents over the years, like if you're obviously amazing, like I'm sure there's lots of people that want to be on your team, right? What are like the top 3 qualities that you look for in someone joining your team before you take them on? Because you don't want everybody, right? And are you able to tell right away if someone's going to be successful? How do you screen them? What do you look for as a leader in the industry?
So there's one book that I think is really awesome. And just because you asked for 3, it works out perfect with the title of the book. So Hungry, Humble, and Smart. So if you will find a person who's hungry, humble, and smart, you'll find a winner. Okay. Like you really, really will. And hungry because you cannot replace that fire. Right? You cannot replace that fire, right? You come to me and you're 27 years old and you got 3 little mouths to feed, and that excites me. You know what I mean? Because even if you're not hungry, like the kids are going to figure out how to remind you that they are, right? So, if for no other reason, right? Hunger can be something, I think it's in you. And I think that if it's not in you, you can find it, because there are other people that are depending on you that could have a better life. You could have better choices. You could give away more money to your church. You could pay off your grandma's house and she's kind of struggling to make it on just Social Security. Like there are so many reasons for you to be successful just to help other people. And I think you can find that hunger if you just look deep enough. Humble, because no matter how successful you get, like if I look at the number 1 reason we have problems now is because of my lack of humility now, right? I wasn't necessarily, a wallflower or maybe like the most humble person, but I've always been humble in a sense that I always wanted to learn more. And I always figured that I would never be able to learn enough. I've never missed a mega camp. I've never missed a family reunion. I missed 1 bold, because that was maybe during one of my stages where I was like too good. And I'm like, I don't need that bold thing. So I think that the humility is really like, it's a good thing because it will drive you to want to learn. And if you look at like my kind of like we have this pyramid or triangle, I've taught about it in your market center, and it's part of our business plan with our agents, is the very bottom of the pyramid is mindset. The second part is practice or skill set. You always have to be sharpening the saw and getting better. And that lack of humility is what will cause you to think you figured it out. And you think that you've gotten, you know what I mean? You're good enough. I think that if I were to kind of pinpoint why we get stuck, that's why we get stuck. Because we usually are doing really good. Like we're usually the number one team in our market center. We're usually in the top 10 in the region. We're usually doing pretty good, which is why we get stuck. But there are people, I have friends, right, that are doing they're doing as much business as us, like in February. like you just take the whole rest of the year off. They had 65 million the first couple months. They're like, why you work all year to do that? So like there's always someone who could push you more. If you're willing to learn and look at it and say, how could I do this better? It's not because you're just like this money hungry, you want to like make more. It's because you should be pushing yourself to be better. And it's like, once you get to a certain level, you should either be pushing it to do more or to have more time, like one of those two. So maybe you're the person that doesn't necessarily want to build a 60, 70, 80, $200 million team. And if you're going to do, let's say you did 5 million last year and your goal is to do 10. Once you do 10, if you don't need any more than say $200,000-$300,000 in income, well, then you better figure out how to just do it in say 20 hours a week instead of 40, or 15 hours a week instead of 30, right? So that you can increase your dollar productivity and then increase your time with your family.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it isn't always about doing more, but what is the quality of life? Because your quality of life will either come from an increase in income or a decrease in the amount of time spent getting the income.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that you said that. That's powerful. So, awesome. And I appreciate that. Thank you. So we're gonna move forward a little bit here. So you built your team, you've got your team, you're doing well, yet you're still looking at people that are doing much more than you, saying, how can I get better every day, right? So in 2000, you were at Global Banker, and then in 2002, you bought into the Keller Williams Market Center in Woodbury, right? Why did you do that? What was it that attracted you to Keller Williams? And then how did you start building your profit share as a result of becoming an owner in the company?
So for Sue, she hears this all the time. So for me, like if I look at my vision board, which I don't know if I have a way to, I wonder how I can do this. So my screensaver on my phone, well, you can kind of see it, right? So this is my vision board. And so right in the center is God, family, and then work, and right above it. So I go on a spiritual retreat every year for 4 days. It's a silent retreat. And that's the pictures of that kind of on the foundation. It's meant to look like a house. So the foundation, my family, and then God. That was my first vision board. And that was before I ever came to Keller. When I went to my first little Keller thing, which I thought I would go down and humor these guys, right? So they were going to launch this thing in January. And in December, they asked me, I was really, really, really good friends with the manager at Burnett at the time. We used to go Christmas shopping for our wives. Like we went Christmas shopping the very next day I was leaving to drive to Austin, Texas to look at this Keller thing. And I couldn't say anything. And they had told me about it so late because they were afraid that I would spill the beans and tell him, and then he would tell all the upper echelon at Burnett, and it would like wreck the whole thing about leaving, right? Because this really was Keller who, there were 10,000 agents in the country with Keller. So, I mean, it really was, there was nothing. I mean, we were like, Sherwin Williams or whatever, when we first opened, like no one knew who anyone was up here. So that they invited me. So the rest of the group, so there were 8 of us that started Woodbury. The 7 of them invited me literally, like I say, a month before they were going, or maybe it was 3 weeks. I drove to Texas, I go down there, and the very first person I see, which is, so franchise systems orientation, so FSO, for those of you that know what that is, was taught by Mo Anderson back in the day. It was in a hotel, and there was 20 of us from the country in the United States. There were 20 people at FSO. Now I think they do it every month, and there's hundreds, right? But so there were 20 something people, and she goes on to tell me about God, family, and then I'm like, literally, I'm sitting in the front row, And I'm like, I'm just humoring these people that are my friends. I'm not going to Keller. I'm going to go look at this thing. I love to learn. I'm going to find out more about this. I'm just going to build my business. I was the #1 producer in my Burnett office for like the 4 prior years. Like I was just focusing on doing my business. And if I could learn more from this Keller company, I was willing to drive down there and learn. Use it as an excuse to leave out of town for a few days. So I really didn't think I was going to be part of it. I was kind of just going to check it out. Well, then she talks about this God, family, and then work and how they're building the whole company and blah, the Y4C2Ts. I'm like, I remember calling my wife like right after I got down there and I said, I think I like this company. Like, I was surprised. I really didn't think I was going to like it. I figured I was just going to get some ideas to implement at my current company. And so I really looked at it. And so it was really the belief structure of the company that caught me because it was so in line with how I felt I wanted to work. And I thought like, no companies say this. No one puts it on their website or, puts it out there. And so to find a company who believes that, and then the culture, which is created by profit share, which, by the way, I didn't really think that would work anyway. So I was like, well, that profit share thing would be neat if it worked. But I really didn't care if it did or not. I was already doing fine, right? We were doing over 1 million GCI back then. So, the thought of, at that time, keep in mind, in 2001, so the year before we joined, Linda McKissick, who did 1.7 million GCI this year or last year, made 22,000 in 01, right? So when I talked to Linda and I'm thinking her and I had similar teams back then and, similar businesses, I should say. She actually had a team doing twice as many units, but we had a better average sales price up here. So we could do half the amount of units and it was mostly just me and then my one buyer agent. But our volume was similar. And I thought, why did she care so much when she was telling me about profit share? Because I met her down there and she's telling me about profit share. And I'm thinking it's like 20 something thousand, which again, would be a lot for passive income. But I'm thinking your team's doing 100,000 a month in GCI. Like that seems $1,800 seems like it's not worth it to work hard on that.
Yeah.
So I didn't take profit share seriously. I would say I really haven't even taken it seriously now, right? Like I'm going to tell you my secret, and my secret is to simply be nice to people, share, and then just do that again. Like be nice to people, share, and then do that again. Like if you'll just do that, like it's not complicated. Most people are not sharing anything. So like if you're learning anything, if you learn anything today, I would encourage you, if you want to have people come to Keller, then use something that I said about just contacting more people, putting together a business plan. We can share our entire business plan. I share with all my agents. I can send that to Lisa today. You can take that. Any one of you can use that today if you want. And then share that with your friend at Edina Realty. And actually don't care if they come. I know Lisa wants them to come, and that's neat. That's her job. Your job is to be nice to people and share. Mm-hmm. We have a $60 million team in my office. Tom Ott brought his whole family. Like he was in my wedding. Okay, I had breakfast with him for 17 years. 17 years I shared with him about everything I learned at Keller. I never cared if he came. 17 years later or 16 years later, he came. Mm-hmm. This is a long game. Most people play this game, they're trying to play to win by Friday.
Yep.
So stop trying to play to win by Friday. Mm-hmm. Like people can tell when you got an agenda. So when you're calling people to recruit them, you think anyone's coming? I mean, did any of you come because you were recruited? Or did you come because you thought it was a good place for you? Like, I mean, people don't give a shit about what you're doing, and they don't care if it's affecting you. Like, they want to know, like, what's in it for them. I'm here because this company is good for me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't recruit anyone to the company. All I did was help them and show them what I was learning here. Right? This company is poised for down markets, right? Like, the reason that this company exists is because helping, sharing, and getting people through tough and challenging times. Like anyone that can fog a mirror and have a license can make it when the market is up, like the last 7 or 8 years. If you didn't have your best year ever this last year, then you need to hear the story about making more contacts every day, because this next year is going to wipe you out, because it's going to get challenging. There are going to be fewer transactions. It doesn't matter how bad we think it's going to get. What matters is if it goes down by 5%, yet we keep the same amount of agents, That just means there's fewer deals per agent. And what happens is the skill set of the good agents increases. So they take more, right? So I'm going to go from 175 to 200 transactions. I'm going to go to 225, 250, right? When the market crashed and went worse, I sold more units than I ever have.
Really?
Best year ever in terms of units. The thing that hurt me was average sales price, right? So average sales price was down, but units were up.
Yeah.
And you'll notice that again, right? You'll notice that again, because what happens is the gap widens because as it gets a little bit more difficult, you'll have less for sale by owners, right? You'll have more people that are dealing with people who are just more experienced. The person who had 20 transactions will maybe do 24 transactions. The person that did 6 might do 5. Right? So it's harder to compete when you just don't have that edge. And so if for no other reason to be successful than to make it through a correction, as the market corrects, that should not scare one singular person in this company, because this company is going to keep saying the same thing that they said in an up market or down market. And that is, you have to do the activities. You have to do them more. You have to get better at your activities. But you only have 2 problems if you want your income to increase. You either don't meet with enough people or talk to enough people, or you say the wrong thing when you do. But you can fix both with just more repetition.
Getting better and better. Jason, you're in Minnesota, you're Minnesota based, and I know you do some business here in Western Wisconsin. What do you foresee like the next 2 years? Do you think Zillow is really going to be a competition? Are you seeing open door? What do you think is going to happen? Do you see forbearances leading to foreclosures? What is your expert opinion, just with all of your years of experience? What's going to happen?
I do think, so the whole technology, so the reason that I would stay here versus anywhere else, I trust Gary's vision in terms of like where he sees us, right? I think that we are ignorant as realtors if we're not paying attention to Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, Open Door, Redfin. If we're not paying attention to the consumer, okay, you and I, right? If you're not ordering more stuff off Amazon, you're probably a liar, right? Like, I mean, it just like, we're just doing it. I dislike the company, and I just got 2 shipments like an hour ago. It's convenient. And so what we're finding is that the consumer is forcing a change in our industry. Technology, right? Zillow and Redfin, let's just take those 2 as examples. What they are is massive real estate teams. So if you think that they're a joke, then understand that they are just a gigantic Jason Gorman real estate team. That is what they are. By minimizing you as the realtor, they're not saying that you're not important. They're not saying that you're not worth it. What they're saying is that you don't run your shit like a business, so I'll do the business side and then pay salespeople less, which is what I do because I run the business side. And then I have salespeople on my team who agree to work for less. That doesn't mean they're less quality people. They may not be as experienced as me, but they have the backbone or the business processes of our team and of me. But if you look at all successful teams, they're nowhere near the size of like an Open Door or Redfin or Zillow. So when we think, if you don't think that Open Door can open up like they did, and within 12 months have 500 transactions, which puts them in the top 5 teams in the Twin Cities in 12 months. And now, did they spend the majority of their money? Yes. Did they basically run for broke and not make any money? Sure. And that is kind of where we're going, because the consumer realizes that the technology platform, they don't realize this. They're beginning to realize this. They want convenience. They're not 100% sure why they need you. They only do this 3, 4, 5 times in their life. And let's be honest, 4 times ago or 3 times ago, they didn't even have the internet, right? When I started, we had MLS books. So like the reason you found out about a property is because you could borrow my book. And I got a new one next week with the new houses in it. I mean, that's 27 years ago now, right? So the market has dramatically changed in the last 5 years. And in the next 5, I believe it will make the last 50 look like a blink. So I believe that the changes, so the fact that Gary thinks that we need to flatten some of our services and we need to figure out how to offer free mortgage, free title, free insurance, like these things, right? Free and discounted things, packaging to basically protect our real estate commission. If we don't think that this is going to happen, we're just being ignorant, right? Because the industry is not doing it to try and provide a benefit to the consumer. The consumer is demanding efficiency because they see inefficiency. They see that they list their property, but they don't notice really a difference. They don't know the difference between someone who has a good script and someone who doesn't have a good script and maybe charges 1% or 2% less for the same thing. And the reason that sometimes agents have a tough time with commission is because they don't understand the business side of it. And when you look at these big companies, they're just saying, hey, we'll run the business side. You go be the realtor on our team. We'll open up the brokerage. We'll feed you leads, which you don't want to do anyway. You don't want to call anyone? Oh, great. Oh, you don't want to actually prospect and lead gen and call your people? Oh, neat. Watch me build you a business then and take you out. The reason I don't worry about it is because I don't buy leads that way, right? Like we generate ours the old fashioned way. We call people, text people, send them direct messages. Apparently social media is not going away. So there's things that we have to adapt to. But what I'm not going to do is pay Zillow to give me leads, right? Because Gary was telling us 3.5 years ago, and there are people that are at competing brokers. There are people in our brokerage, which that baffles me. That baffles me. If you would be actually sending any amount of money to Zillow, give me a call. We can talk privately about. I'd love to hear why you are doing that. I would love LOVE, right? I mean, there is no possible way that we should be funding a company who is looking to actually take us out. Zero. But I mean, Gary was talking about this years ago. So why am I here is because I do believe that the industry is going to change. So I think in the next 5 years, you're going to see technology disruptors. I hear all the complaints about Command. I will have you know that I've used Sync for 5 years. And it sucks just as bad. So if you guys have Sync, anyone it does, I mean, we have issues with it as well. So if you're new to technology and don't understand that all of it kind of sucks, right? I mean, I used to have, Top Producer. And before that, I had Agent Online 2000, right? I mean, that was like probably I had floppy disks to do all my backup. So, I mean, I've used databases since the beginning of time, and the reason that a lot of them are having problems is because we spend so little time actually working in them. And we just want them to just like wire transfer us closings. And they're not going to do that. Like they're all going to have some limitations. The one thing I like about Command, and so we do both. So I have Commissions Inc. and I have Command. And so we use both. We have to use Command to process commission checks and closings and everything anyway. So we have all of our sphere, we have all of our database, we have all of our people in there, and we're working it from that perspective. Then from a lead standpoint, we're using Command to do all the ads. We have a budget of around $500 a month in Command because we can generate a lot more leads for that $500. But then our bulk of our advertising and marketing is in Sync, and that's where we do our Google AdWords and our Facebook ads. We do some Facebook ads in Facebook ads actually are in Command, but they're harder to track. So I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of lead gen, but I will tell you that running the leads in Command, you're going to get more leads for the dollars, but Command is wonky from a lead incubation standpoint. And sometimes if you're not really paying attention, you don't want to be spending a lot of money because you can lose leads and if you're not paying attention, it can be a problem.
Yep.
And we hear all the horror stories or whatever, but I think from a technology standpoint, there is no other brokerage. Well, there is no other brokerage on the planet that owns their own technology and is putting money into it. And I'm a firm believer because Gary Keller was called crazy when we did the whole team thing. And then when we talked about doing expansion, I mean, they called him crazy then too. He was nuts. The brokers, everyone said expansion was nuts. Everyone. And then everyone tells him he's nuts right now. I love it. I love that the whole world thinks he's crazy and off his rocker and doesn't really know what he's doing. No, he's just 19 chess moves ahead of you. And so like, you're just sitting there thinking, I don't know, like I think we need to do this. Like he was thinking that 6 years ago.
Mhm.
He was thinking defund Zillow 4 years ago at Mega Camp. He's telling all of us top producers to take all of our money out of Zillow.
Mhm.
And it took a lot of us. I permanently defunded Zillow a year and a half ago. So 2.5 years of him saying it is finally when it sunk in.
Yeah. And you're more profitable, I assume, too,
We're,
right?
we're spending the same amount of money. It's not like I just took the $2,500 I wire transferred to Zillow for their stupid leads that they basically were trying to, basically defund me, right?
Yeah.
And so then I took that same 2,500, I just put it into Google AdWords and
Oh,
Facebook.
there you go. You
So
reallocated it.
I didn't save any money by doing it. I just generate the same damn leads.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate, absolutely. Hey, we got a couple questions here. We got about 5 minutes or so left. Couple questions from Peggy, Peggy Weber, and she has a question here for you. Okay, Jason, are there characteristics of a solo agent that will make it really difficult for them to be successful as a team leader?
Lack of desire. Lack of desire will kill any person. So I don't know. I guess I don't understand Peggy's exact question, but like if you lack of desire will kill anyone, regardless of personality. I think all personalities can be successful, or characteristics can be successful if you have a strong enough desire.
So it's all about desire.
Well, I think if you look at all successful people, they really had a strong desire. They had a strong reason to make it. If you want to watch one TED Talk, it's called Start With Why. It's Simon Sinek. That's a great book, by the way. It's all companies that really make this like massive difference in the world. They start with why. Like, why is it important? Gary Keller's why is to keep you as the agent the center of the entire transaction. Right? Like all the rest of these brokerages that are out there may or may not be run by people who actually used to be realtors. Mm-hmm. And so the realtor is central to our company. I mean, it's actually, we are owned and run by us as realtors. And that's kind of the whole profit share model. But I think when you look at it, it really, the one thing, if you could pick one, it is desire. Mm-hmm. Desire beats everything else.
Yeah. And you can't want it more than you can't want it for other people. Like you have to want it for yourself. You can't.
And if you want it bad enough, you'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you won't give up. And any sane person, there's an awesome YouTube video from Will Smith. And he talks about like any sane person would give up. I think it's Will Smith would give up because it's hard. Like success is hard. And like, if you don't love it, if you really don't love what you're doing and you're doing it to just make money or to just, you don't even know why, like you're doing it because your buddy said you should or whatever. It's like, you're just confused. So I think really spend some time thinking like, why do I want it? Why do I want to be successful? Like if you needed a leukemia treatment for your daughter and like she needed it and it wasn't covered by insurance and you needed $100,000, I can guarantee every one of you could figure out how to make $100,000 by the end of the year. For just that treatment alone. Yeah. Because it's just, you want it bad enough.
Yeah. Well, in the Red Book, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Gary talks about like the mindset of a multimillionaire real estate agent. And the number one differentiator is they have a big why, right?
Yeah.
There's something that they're working towards. Another question from Peggy is, Jason, do you ever feel like being a leader of a team is too constricting? You're responsible for so many other people's lives. Do you ever feel like you could never step away?
So I think it's almost the opposite of that. I felt like being successful on my own. Now, are there challenges? Yes. Are there times where I look at the reports for the month and Kim Zeiton is doing the same business as us and I think she didn't have to deal with any of these knicker knobs? And I mean, like I could just sell 7 extra houses and not deal with the people. So yes, I would be lying if I didn't say that I have thought about it. What I have determined is that my desire to help other people succeed, my desire to see them flourish and succeed is more important than me just like selling another house. Like selling a house is not complicated or like fulfilling to me, right? Mm-hmm. Selling a house is fun. I still like to deal with the business side of it. But helping other agents succeed is really where my passion is. So I think you have to decide which is your passion. If your passion is to sell houses and you love the deal, you may never need to build a team.
Mhm.
You know, and if you, there again, back up to what we just said, if you don't love building a team, you might say, you know what?
Mhm.
I don't love it. Like, is it frustrating? Is it hard? Are there times where I feel like some days I just want to drive into a pylon on the bridge because I'm just like another question from another agent that was the same as the one from an hour ago? I mean, yes, of course, there are times that you just, you know, that you are overwhelmed by simple things that continue to get you in the same or similar place of stuck. Yes, right? Our lack of systems or our solving systems, like we hired a virtual transaction coordinator dealing with some things. I think we were solving some of these issues 15 years ago. Like, I'm resolving same and similar issues. Like, that's annoying. Yeah, I mean, so there are parts like a lesson is repeated until learned. So just know, like, if you've repeated another lesson, it's because you didn't learn it last time. So, and then you own it. And then you're like, yeah, a lesson is repeated until learned. Because you're going to get it again. Like, if you continue to get it, just know that it's you, not the people. It's not the people on the team. It's because you haven't learned the lesson. There was a lesson, and maybe a stick against the head was not good enough. So just maybe it's a bigger stick next time. And so you'll continue to learn the same lessons over and over and over. If you look at anyone in anyone on this call, anyone in the room, anyone in real estate, we all seem to have same and similar challenges, and then you repeat them. You as a team leader have had similar challenges now that you did in the beginning. And that's because we're learning those same lessons. And hopefully we get better, so we make them fewer and fewer times over time. But we're never going to, again, like, we're never going to get away from change.
Done. Yeah. Yeah. And yet we don't want to be done because it's about the journey. It's not about the
And
end.
do we love it, right? Do you love it enough where you're like, you know what, like, this is challenging? Yes. Is it difficult? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes.
Yeah. And if you truly love what you do, you don't feel like it's work. You never work a day in your life, right? You know, I know as a team leader, for me personally, I literally can't sleep some nights because I'm so excited to come to work. Like, I just love what I do. And so I could work and work and work. And it, like you said, it's so much more fulfilling to see someone else succeed or do their first deal or hit their cap than it would be for me to just go sell a house. Right.
Right.
So what questions do you guys have on the Zoom or in the training room? Do you guys want to ask Jason any questions? Oh, they're unmuting. Oh.
Sideways.
There you are.
Was that question? No. Apparently they're quiet.
Does anybody have a question in the training room? No questions?
Just drinking it in.
Just taking it in? What about you, Dan Seth? Any questions from you?
I have a question, Jason. So do you do production still yourself?
I do, yeah. 3/4, well, probably 60% of our production is me right now. The goal in 2020 was to get me below 50%. If we make a really good push these last couple months, Jack on my team is actually, we're neck and neck right now. So the goal is to have my salespeople outperform me. And I just have some higher price units. He has about the same unit. So I have a few higher price units. I work basically with Sphere and some past clients. I don't take any incoming leads. So any leads that come into our team, I don't take. But I would say in 2021, I would love for that to be 25%, and to be fully phased out. I don't want any production for myself in 3 years. So the goal is to just be doing less and less each year, and eventually giving all of my sales to the team. What happens is, in order for us to pay for the team, I end up having to do some sales, because so for instance, if we only sell 200 houses and I give all of my production to my salespeople, then we just automatically lose, like, my split that I take. So I'm on a buy side, I'm on a 50-50 split, just like them, 25% on the listing side. So I get the same production. So when we do our commission splits for the closings, I'm treated the exact same. It's just that I put all of mine my 50 or 25 back into the team. So I don't take that pay separately. So, you know, that extra, like this year, 270,000, I would have paid other agents to be the agent on my deals. That stays in the team, which then helps fund all of the stuff. Because like right now, our salaries are over where they should be. And we have to hire another person. But like I just hired 2 ISAs. So now I have 1 full-time ISA and I have 2 more that are incubating right now. Well, 3 ISAs is going to, you know, be a lot. But I mean, again, our goal is to increase our sales commensurate with that. And so if we can get to 300 units, then I won't need to be quite as many. So yes, I'm still in production today. Should be pretty close to 50% by the end of the year.
So my question going off of that one was going to be, how do you break up or balance your own production with training other agents who you're also trying to get out into production?
You know, so for me to sell 80 or 90 houses or 100 houses in a year, I can basically do that in my sleep. Again, 26 years ago, 25 years ago, I was doing the same thing. So to think that that should take me 40 hours a week is ludicrous, right? I mean, for me to sell 7, 8 houses in a month is going to maybe take me 10 hours a week, right? It's not that complicated, right? Like I can go out and work. I just sold one in Hudson, $1 million deal. I showed them 4 homes. I had a total of about 6 hours into that entire experience. And the team brought in a $25,000 commission check. And so, you know, like I don't have to go out and show 63 houses. I mean, my buyer contracts are super simple. My buyer experiences are pretty simple. And again, they trust me, but I mean, we're not going out looking at 57 houses. You know what I mean? So I think that how do I balance it? I mean, I spend a lot less time. And so every year you're in the business, you're going to get better at your craft. It'll take you less time. So even though it sounds like that, like 100 houses or 80 houses should take a long time, if you've been doing it for 26 years, it sure as hell shouldn't take you the same amount of time as someone who's done it 4 years. So for me to do that kind of production is actually like, to me, it's a real part-time job. So I look at it like my production takes me 20 hours a week, roughly. Then I got running the team is about 20 hours a week. And then dealing with my salespeople is about 20 hours a week. So I'm probably working 60 hours a week. You know, I try to take my 8 to 10 weeks of vacation per year. I don't really work after 5. I don't really work on the weekends. You know, I'll have every weekend, it seems like I either have a Zoom meeting, a call, or an appointment, unless I'm those 8 or 10 weeks where I'm actually out of town. But the vast majority of, you know, nights and weekends, I hope to avoid work as all possible. But, you know, if I got an offer coming in, I was texting a client last night, you know, at 8 o'clock, letting them know that we had multiple offers and whatever, and that we would deal with it today. So I don't, even though that's 5 minutes out of my night, I kind of need to do that. But I mean, I'm not going to actually like be presenting and negotiating and dealing with offers and counter offers at 9:30 if I can avoid it.
Mm. Ross has a question for you, Jason. How have you been able to attract and retain some of your long-standing agents on your team, like Becky?
Yeah, 19 years.
19 years.
Yeah. So she's my sister's best friend. So I think it helps if you have a relationship with people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I lost my entire team twice, and Becky's been with me for both of them. Yeah. She was there pretty early on, you know, right before. She was there when I was at Burnett, right? So she was the second person I hired. She was basically hired to replace my wife, and so to deal with, you know, the administrator. So she started administratively. Joni, who's been on our team for 13 years, also started administratively. Both of them did admin for quite a few years before they transitioned to the agent side of things. You know, so I think that the keeping and retaining talent is a little bit like a marriage, right? It's easy for the first 30 days, the first 3 months, the first 6 months. After you've been married for 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, 20 years, 21 years, I mean, it gets a little bit more difficult. It's not to scare people, but I mean, all relationships in time become more difficult because you've got time, right? I mean, some of you don't like your brothers and sisters. Why? Because it's a lot of time you've spent with them, right? And they drive you nuts. And so there are some people, I think what is the trick to keeping good people? Help them succeed. Like, I think if you want to keep good people, you've got to help them succeed. I've lost a lot of really great people because they felt like they could do better on their own. I have 5 capping agents in the Woodbury Market Center that all used to be on my team. That probably helps with profit share. I mean, they came, you know what I mean? And I wish them the best. I mean, I like when agents leave our team to start their own team or to be on their own. You're going to have some attrition. You know, I mean, you don't have the same agents in Hudson that were there with the year Hudson started, and we don't in Woodbury. Our industry is very, there's a high level of turnover in any commission only industry. So part of that, I think you need to accept. Like, can you get people that stick around for a long time? Yes. Is that rare? Yes. It's rare in your market center. It's rare in your company, right? It's rare in our industry. The top people tend to kind of stick around for a long, long time. And the bottom 80% shifts and changes over about every 24 months. You know, so there, when you look at 80% of an entire industry switching over every 24 months, you're just going to have some turnover. And I think that you need to accept that. That's not about you or your team or your company. That's about an industry, and that's people finding out that they are not a good fit. For the most part, they are not a good fit for commission only. They're not a good fit for running their own business. So even though they can make $60, $70, $80, $90,000 as a commission salesperson, if I look across the board, the vast majority of the people that we've lost have taken jobs where they make less money or have less of an opportunity, but it's just more stable. And so they choose stability over income. And I think if I look back, the things that I have really learned to key on are people in the interview process who are looking for freedom and flexibility, because I know that those two things are the enemy of success. And so if you're looking for freedom and flexibility, which is a lot of us, and then now with this pandemic, a lot of us have learned to, work from home, right? I mean, I could be in my sweatpants right now, sitting at home. I don't have to go to the office. Like, this freedom and flexibility have been, I think they've been good in a lot of respects. And what you have to look at is that in order to be successful, though, you still have to be disciplined in certain areas. And agents that find out that it takes discipline, when I look at like the common denominator of people that don't make it on our team, they're not disciplined to do the few things, because we strip away basically all of the responsibilities. Sue can even speak to this. Like, we strip away the responsibilities of an agent so that all that's left is to generate, like, basically make contacts. That's their only job. So they should be able to do it in a small amount of time, because they're not spending 40 hours a week, like doing all the other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions, you guys? All right. All right, Jason. All right. Well, thank you for giving us your time today. We'll end there. We're a little bit after, so I appreciate you giving us a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Profit share, I will say, profit share is an unbelievable gift and opportunity. I will end it on this. If you are not helping other people grow their business, you are missing out on a gift in this company. My
Jason,
wife and I made $23,000 just last month, just, a few days ago.
Yep.
Just shy of 200,000 last year. It should be over 200,000 this year. And just because I like it here. I mean, I for no other reason, right? Like, I mean, because I want to help people build their businesses and grow, the company agrees to give back 48% of the profit back to us as agents to help the company grow. It's, it's an equal opportunity, unequal reward. And it goes to people who help people. So if you'll help people, just, again, help them in their business, what will happen is, the more you will focus on trying to help another agent grow their business or team, and the number one recruiting script, okay, I don't call it recruiting, I just call it introducing, but the number one way to introduce people to Keller is to just ask them what their greatest challenge is. If you'll simply ask them what their greatest challenge is, and then call Lisa, like if you don't know, like I don't know like how I would fix that. My greatest challenge is in building my team. My greatest challenge is in scripts and dialogue. My greatest challenge is overcoming commission issues, or my greatest challenge is whatever. They're going to tell you what it is. If you don't know the answer, call me, call Lisa, call another experienced agent in your office. Like someone already has the damn solution. Like stop trying to figure out how to chisel the corners off your square wheel. Like for shit's sake, someone's already figured this business out. So you can cheat. It's like open book. Like this is perfect. Like this is the only reason I could never go to college. Like I'm like, man, I do not want to have to study. And so in this business, you can actually draw a line in the top 10, 20, 30 agents in your market center, in your region. Call them. Like they will help you. And then you can just like get the cliff notes to the answers and boom. So just like this, you can ask any question of a top agent and they'll give you an answer. They will help you avoid all of the challenges and struggles that we tend to just have to think we have to learn them on our own. So if you'll ask an agent what their greatest challenge is and then help them solve it, right? Be mailing out the red book, mailing out the shift. If you haven't read shift, read it now, right? Like we are in the beginning of a shift, whether it's going to be 1 month from now or a year from now. We know that we're going to see some sort of a shift. And everything that you learn in shift, honestly, you should be doing in an up market anyway. So there isn't anything in there where you're like, well, that's a waste of time. Like everything in there is about making sure that you're paying attention to your numbers, you're paying attention to your lead gen and what you're doing and holding your expenses accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. The Millionaire Real Estate Investor too is powerful. Do you own any investment properties?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you make money so you can invest money so you can build passive income. Jason, how much money are you going to make this year? Are you forecasting to make this year in profit share in 2020?
So I think in profit share, I should be just over 200,000. Last year was just shy of 200,000.
Yep.
But we've seen an uptick. I think it's funny, because of the pandemic, I think that some of the offices were prepaying expenses at the beginning. So March, April, May, my profit share was down a little bit from last year. It was still okay. But now what we're seeing is that because we prepaid those expenses, and then a lot of the market centers are like historically, like across the board, Keller's up 32 or 33%, I think, year to date. And so what's happened is it's just some of it's back ended. And like I say, I mean, don't focus so much. Like I say, I think I've accidentally succeeded in profit share. And it's just because I never really focused on getting it. Like my first year, I made $1,600. To me, it seemed like a waste of time to even talk about or think about. You get a $50 check or whatever. The trick with profit share is to take it a little bit more seriously in terms of just helping the people. Like stop focusing on like what you can get. Just know that if you help people succeed, you will get paid. Right? I mean, like I think Lisa, I think you're in my downline or something.
Yeah, I'm in your downline.
Actually,
Todd is sitting in the room. Todd, you're in Jason's downline too.
Yeah. And so the cool part is it's like it starts out so small that you don't take it seriously at all, and then it just gets so big that you're just like overwhelmed by the coolness of it. Like I say, it's a really neat reward. It's not something I think that you really need to. I don't think you need to focus on it in terms of like the actual recruiting. Like say that's Lisa's job to help them see if this would be a good fit for them. It's your job to introduce them. And the way you can introduce them is not by learning a fancy script where you can like sweep their foot when they're, when you have a co-op transaction, like what could I say to like get them? Hey, Dan, like what's your greatest challenge right now in real estate? Like, and then listen to them. And then just like be willing to like say, yeah, I had that same damn thing. Like I had 17 of my people leave my team, right? I'm leaving for vacation. My entire team is leaving except Becky. Like as I'm leaving for vacation.
That happened to you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that vacation sucked. I got the call at the airport and they left me to go to another KW office and start another team there. That was cool.
Oh man, but it doesn't kill you, makes you stronger though, right?
And it's fine. Like again,
just get through it.
I needed to become better.
Yep.
And that helped me become better. And Jamie Smith was the guy that was the leader of that. And he left and he's with a different company now. And he sells real estate part-time. He's a firefighter full-time. And he's a great guy. And he didn't do anything to me. He did it because his vision and his business couldn't fit in my vision. If you lose good people, it's because your vision sucks. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, I had to own that part. Like, it wasn't about like me being a victim to like, again, it was for the don't get me wrong. Like for that vacation, I was a victim. That was totally like possible to stay in victimhood that whole 10 days. But like, while I read a book on that vacation, I'll never forget it, Jack Canfield's book called Success Principles. And it's one of the best books I've ever read. And I still have the copy. I dropped it in the hot tub. So it's like, this thick now because I got all wet. But that book is really cool because again, like a lot of it was like taking ownership and really owning like what kind of challenges and problems have you brought on yourself? And so that part was hard to read, but it was really the truth. And so that's how I've become a better leader is really like, I can't remember if it was Peggy that asked that before about building a team. Like that's where I really grew. So, I mean, if you look at like something bad that happened really helped me grow as a leader, I become a better leader. I haven't always been the best leader. And I think I have a long ways to go to become a better leader so that I can build a team like a lot of my friends are doing 7, 8. A friend of mine in North Dakota does 900 transactions, right? He's been in the business for not 7 years. So he just got there faster. Like he shortcutted it. He got out of his own damn way. And so where I feel like a lot of my problem is that I've been in production and I've stayed, to Dan's point, like how much is my production? I haven't gotten out fast enough. Where my buddy, he never did 60 deals in a year, ever. And he just went like this and just got out of his own way and started hiring great people and like poured into them. And so he never had that $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 a year income that he had to replace from being a realtor. Right. So it's one of those things where I look back and I think he created that success ramp up so much quicker because he got out of his own way faster. So
Julie wants to know, what are you reading currently?
Oh, what am I reading currently? I've been switching. So I've got like 4 books on my desk. I can't think of them right now. Hank, you want me to go get one? I can't remember that. Well, actually, just forget it. Here's what I would tell you. Go on. There's a couple of them. I can't remember the names. So, I mean, I should grab them off my desk. But go on and listen to Ed Mylett. If you haven't listened to Ed Mylett's podcast, Mylett, Ed Mylett. That is an awesome podcast. If you haven't listened to Ben Kinney's podcast, so the Win, Make, Give podcast, I listen to that almost every week. They've had 100 episodes this year. They just finished season 1. They're coming out with season 2. But just re-listen to that. 80% of that is mindset. If you go back, I think here's what I'll tell you. My favorite books of all time, ones I've read more like over and over and over again, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. By far the one I've read more than anything else. The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. The E-Myth for Peggy, if you want to build a team or you want to have that, you're having that entrepreneurial seizure, as he calls it, in the book, and you're deciding you want to build a business. So 90% of all business failures are because they didn't read Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth. So they were a practitioner, they were a painter, they were a carpenter, they were a realtor, right? And they decided one day they had this big entrepreneurial seizure and they decided that they were going to become a business owner that day. But they didn't realize that the difference between being a practitioner, being a realtor, and owning a real estate business was like there was like a difference between being a nurse and a mechanic. Like they weren't even close, right? And so that's really an awesome book that I've read just countless times. And then Success Principles from Jack Canfield. I would say that those would be my top 3 that I've read so many times.
It's a great book. Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah. Some good nuggets, right? All right.
Cool. Well, I know we're over time. I'll let you guys
Yeah.
run.
We are so grateful. Thank you so much for sharing and giving us all this information and these nuggets to help us grow our business. And we're so grateful for you. And you're always willing to help every time we've ever asked you to teach or let me interview you or meet with the recruit. You're so wonderful. So I just want to say thank you.
Oh, thank
We're
you.
grateful
Yeah,
to have you in our KW family. So
no
all
problem.
right.
My pleasure. You
All
guys have a
right,
good day.
guys. All right. We'll send this out to everybody too. So if you want to rewatch it, you certainly can.
Sounds good.
So,
Bye-bye.
all right. Have a good one.
You bet. Bye.
Bye.